Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet Sky FF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name is Suj.
And my name is James.
James. Sky Fantasy Football. Sky Fantasy Football. Where are we up to, James? We had an interesting week where a number of players were left out. Like I had a few blanks across my team. I didn't get a full complement out. Romeo, for example, didn't end up playing, but you know, it was all right. It was all right. I ended up on 84 points and a 200 place rank rise to 1700 or so.
Good man. Well done. Nice.
Any week where I get a rank rise and I haven't used any transfers, I feel like that's all right.
So I've been saying for weeks I would have a listen back to try and find out where we were at equivalent time last year.
Yeah.
So I had a listen back to the podcast around about the time where, remember, Liverpool had the 3-for-0s in January. Obviously, this season started later. So you were, as per usual, fucking things up, and you were about 20,000.
Yeah. Well, I'd probably missed like half my deadlines and missed my captaincy picks. I haven't missed a single captaincy this season.
Yeah. Does James send you a reminder hour before deadline every single day? Yeah. Yes, he does.
But to be fair, I check it. I set them on Friday, and then you don't need to really worry too much. You do it once, you're right.
I was about 2,000. So we're both in far stronger positions this year. Your rank is good, sir. 1,700 is very, very reasonable.
I think I always monitor it based on the number of points I am behind you. Overall, I think it's less than 100 now. I need to double check. You're going to tell me in a minute.
I have no idea how many points you got.
1,461.
You are 99 points behind me. Get a flake with that, sir.
I will.
I am 117th. Little bit of a dip this week. Wasn't a good week at all. Saved somewhat by KDB on Sunday. I needed that with Kane, Son doing good little bits on Saturday and going just with Bamford. Although it was lovely to captain a player against Tottenham and your man got shot tier 2. And that was it. To be honest, when he did it, when he had the second shot, I went, shot tier 1. Fuck off. When he had the header in the second half, I went, shot tier 2. Thanks. Fuck off. That'll do. I'll take the 10 points. Obviously, a lot went with Vardy Sunday, which I decided obviously not to go with. So KDB's little double pointer was lovely.
Massive. Yeah.
The week being shit as opposed to okay was essentially defined by Callum Hudson-Odoi's goal at the death. Because that knocked 10 points off me, having gone with Stones and Diaz the previous Monday before the Everton postponement. So that probably would have levelled me out where I probably would have been in the top 100 if that clean sheet had come through for City. But I know there were others. That people got Justin, who obviously lost a late clean sheet and stuff. Not the worst week. Bruno captain Friday. Bamford captain Saturday, as I said, with the shot tiers. KDB captain Sunday. Captain Salah Monday, as like many others, didn't go great. Robertson 3-pointer, not ideal either. Assist for Neto and assist for Jack Grealish. That was my week. So I only finished on 77 points. A little bit like what I said last week. I can't complain with the flying December I had. It was inevitable I was going to have a fairly average week to come at some more bad week. And KDB essentially has saved it from being a bad week.
Romeo was a blank for me as well on Monday, which was frustrating. And we are now in that period where COVID and stuff is causing a problem. We do have a gap now until the next match week, which obviously because of the FA Cup, we've got a bit of time. And we've had more fixtures as well, right? In the meantime, we know where we're going up until the match week 21, end of January and what have you.
So since we recorded last Wednesday, we did a Sky Pod for patrons last Thursday, dropped that, and then the fixture announcement came out. Obviously, Burnley and Manchester United is now on the 12th, which essentially is the next game day. So all that, I need a Wolves or an Everton coverage for that Tuesday, that never fucking mattered, did it?
Yep.
And Man City and Aston Villa has now gone on to the Wednesday, the 20th, which is now the same night as Manchester United playing at Fulham. So, I mean, that's not essential from a captaincy point of view because probably by default you have to go with Bruno. But obviously the game there now in terms of those two teams now play 3 times. So you can obviously add Aston Villa and Burnley into that mix as well. But I don't think anybody would be adding Aston Villa as new. A lot of people got Martinez, will be happy. A lot of people have obviously got Jack Grealish. I think the one for Grealish that's notable is obviously he's one booking away from a suspension. But the fact that they've now got that extra fixture in there, it would probably need him to get booked after 19, so after the game with City, for him to be considered to be sold. I think otherwise you just go with it because they're playing one extra game than everybody else anyway over the 10 days or so when we return. Obviously, there's a big game with City to be had in terms of you could even make a case for selling Bruno after they play Burnley.
Yeah,
you got 2 games of City, which admittedly you missed Bruno against Liverpool on the Sunday. The awkwardness with that one would be, you want him back when they play Fulham and City play the same night. So that doesn't overly work. But there are definitely manoeuvres to be made in terms of gaining City players, particularly, I think, if that's what people want to do.
So, that was one of the things we were going to talk about now. What's the, remind everybody the next Overhaul date in terms of match weeks, James?
So the Overhaul is scheduled to open, I believe it's February the 6th, which is after match week 23. I don't know what that is in terms
Sunday
of
the 7th. So would that be after the Sunday?
Yeah, there's a small possibility we could have a Monday night game that week, but I think it's unlikely actually. So when obviously the final game of that game week kicks off, that's when obviously Overhaul will open. Unless, of course, there's a Premier League game that midweek, which could fuck everything up. It's not impossible either because there's Champions League football that week. Although, importantly, Manchester City do play in the Champions League that midweek. So their rearranged game with Everton wouldn't go into that midweek. It'd more likely go the one after or 3 weeks after that or in game week 26 or later, depending on how badly the Premier League want to fuck things up. So this, in terms of what we see for layout now, there shouldn't be any more rearrangements between now and Overhaul, bar obviously we can have postponements for COVID. And the other notable thing to say is obviously the weekend of the 22nd of January, that's the Friday, that weekend is blank for FA Cup fourth rounds at the moment. Yep. If we got a scenario where, say, Villa and Newcastle both went out in the third round of the FA Cup, there's a fair shot it will be put on that weekend of the FA Cup fourth round.
It's the fixture announcements last week came fairly late, you would say.
Yeah.
So I think the Premier League are now open to just announcing it a couple of weeks before or whatever. Saying,
but they don't have to worry about fans, do they?
Of course. No,
they can do that sort of thing. You've only got to notify the teams. And I believe that Manchester United had been badgering the Premier League to say, come on, like if we do really well in the Europa League and get to the League Cup final, we're going to be in big problems here. So we're knocking on the door to say, look, when are you going to put this Burnley game? And I think that's what's forced the hand of the Burnley game, plus obviously City's postponement with Everton. That's what's forced the hand to put those 2 games into match weeks of 18 and 19, respectively. The cock-up is that they haven't scheduled a Tottenham game in now. Because Tottenham have obviously got the Fulham rearrangement. And to be honest, that should have taken some sort of priority in now. Because obviously now Tottenham have got to the League Cup final. Tottenham have 2 games with Fulham to reschedule.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they going to go?
It doesn't matter. Well, I'm going to be owning double Tottenham for all of that, if not triple, whenever that does happen. So this magic game week 37 from an FPL point of view, I don't know what it work out to match week Sky with Spurs playing Fulham twice. Let's make it happen.
It's unlikely. It's unlikely for us to get in that situation where Tottenham would play 3 times in the final week of the season, for example, before 38. Probably need Tottenham to get to the FA Cup semi-finals and Europa League semi-finals. That's probably what you need. The ideal solution to that is that Tottenham would lose an FA Cup semi-final. Then you've got a strong possibility that Tottenham would play like Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. It's possible.
Interesting. So in terms of your transfer strategy for the next couple of weeks, obviously we're trying to, we talked last week about holding transfers back, want versus need, and now really reacting to the need and not necessarily the want. Any kind of thoughts that have changed around that? Because I'm still sitting very much in the need box. I'm doing nothing if I can help it until and when.
I'm now, and to be honest, after we recorded the podcast, I was very down last week in terms of I genuinely thought football was going to get thrown out. I don't now. I think it's going to be fine. The fact that they've been brave enough to put those 2 fixtures in gives me the strength to believe that Premier League's going to carry on. Plus, as we've obviously found out since, loads of the COVID cases because people have been breaking bubbles, right, and doing their own thing over Christmas and New Year and stuff. So actually the Premier League is still on point with what they're trying to do. So I think we have to believe now that we're going forward in the right direction. But it is still a need versus want. Quite agree with that. So I look at, for example, West Ham playing West Brom on the Tuesday in match week 19 when Chelsea go to Leicester. Now, I've got captaincy coverage in Zuma. It's not great, but then Zuma's ownership's going to be quite high and he'll be captained by quite a lot, I imagine, just as for anybody who hasn't got Vardy, it's like a fallback option. I look at that and think, I'd love to get Antonio in there. If you'll get the team. If he's starting, I'd love to buy him, stick the armband on him and go with it. Then with him, is it a future problem because he'll break down with injury again at any time? Can I trust him to stay fit till the overhaul? Because realistically, the majority of people that I would buy now would probably, I'd want ideally to stick around. It never quite works like that, but that's what you'd want. And then that's it. It's need versus want. Do I need Antonio? No, I probably won't. Do I want him and could he be a massive differential for me? Yes. And I don't think, I can't tell you now what the decision of that is because you've got an FA Cup third round tie to play where hopefully you'll get some minutes. Then you've got a league game with Burnley. And it probably doesn't work out for me to be buying him for the Burnley game and taking that chance. It would be probably for the West Brom game. So I can't make that decision. That is nearly 2 weeks away, right? There's so many things in between.
Yeah, I've got 2 moves that I'm potentially looking at, even though I want to try and hold back transfers because I've got Heung-min Son at the moment and I've got Oriol Romeu, and Romeu hasn't particularly been doing bits for me at all. So I want to try and find a fixture game with Villa and potentially West Ham. So if I was to make 2 moves, and they are Son to Ollie Watkins and Romeu to Antonio, I could do that and get West Ham have 3 fixtures for Spurs is 1 in terms of Burnley, West Brom and Crystal Palace. When you do play Sheffield United, Son could obviously smash 7 against them, but I'll take the 3 for 1 if I know Antonio is going to be fit. And Villa obviously have Everton, City, Burnley, and in that time period, I mean, Southampton still do have 3 fixtures, but they've got Leicester in there and Leeds and Arsenal. I think Romeu's never going to be as big an upside as maybe Ollie Watkins is.
There isn't a good entry point for any of that. So if you look at kind of getting Watkins in for Son, obviously play each other on the 13th, then Villa play next on the Saturday, but you're missing then Son against Sheffield United while Watkins plays Everton. And then
you've got a long gap until
Watkins,
Liverpool.
but then Watkins has then got 2 games.
City and Burnley.
So then the entry point would be Watkins when he plays Manchester City, and then you've got Burnley. All right, then you miss Son plays Tottenham, and then Villa should have a third game, Southampton, before Tottenham play Brighton. And Tottenham versus Brighton at the moment is on a Sunday, and you might find you want the Tottenham player back, and that's what we're talking about. Need versus want. Are you better off just sitting there with Son? He's a machine, isn't he? He's not great for this game because he tends to have one big chance in the game and he tends to score, but he doesn't add on your shot tiers and stuff like that as well.
No, I feel like on the weekend, the fact that he matched Kane on captaincy, I got away with it more than anything else.
What's your Arsenal plan?
None at the moment. Although
that's more important, isn't it?
Zuma is sitting there, and I've got enough money to go Zuma to Gabriel if Gabriel's confirmed as fit.
So you can't do that. Then who have you got for the captaincy? Fulham versus Chelsea.
No one.
That doesn't work. And then you'd probably be stitched up as well for the Leicester, Chelsea, and West Ham, West Brom night.
Yep.
So you can't do that. So rule that one out. What else can you do?
For Arsenal, nothing is obviously one option as well.
I don't think it is, though, because they've got 2 captaincy days. I don't think you can ignore it. If it was one, genuinely, I think I'd fuck it. I can't bother with them.
What's your views on like someone cheap, like a Saka, for example?
Fine.
7 million.
I'm not defined by one particular move at the moment. I think the most likely one at the moment for me is Robertson to Gabriel is the most likely, I think. Just on the day, once I've seen the team, if Gabriel's in it, fine. Obviously, if he's not, I need to rework different solutions. So another one is Robertson to Lacazette actually works out exact money. So that's another one I'd consider. Just Lacazette would be the 2 games, maybe the third Southampton, and then come back off it. Saka's fine. Holding's fine. You just want to see he's in the team. Leno, it might even be that I have an injury between now and then and work something else. Because, I mean, one of the other things I was considering is like Robertson to Cancelo, for example, when City play Brighton on the Wednesday and go in treble City defensive. And then that could open up Meslier to Leno. Also opens up Meslier to Edison if I really want to go mental with it, which I am considering. Neto to Saka works.
Yep.
I'm kind of keen to, whatever I do, I'm kind of keen to leave the money so I can add in an Antonio. That's kind of partly what I'm keen to do if I want to decide to make that move or not, which I think when I make the Arsenal decision, I'm not going to have enough information to know if I want to do it or not. But it's important that I leave that money aside where I can get to him. So I kind of like the idea more of going Neto to Antonio. That means that's why I like the drop in Robertson money. Plus Liverpool obviously coming into a tougher run. Am I that bothered about it? Not as I was now that Matip's not available. I'd be more keen even to go, if Matip was suddenly back, just go Robertson to Matip and open up some money.
Yeah.
If I want to keep Liverpool defensively.
Interesting. Captaincy coverage for the next week, James. Should we cover that, and then we can get into some of the questions that we've had? We've had more questions on Twitter than we have for a long time. I'm not sure what that says, other than maybe the popularity of the game is growing, or people have a lot of concerns or questions as it stands at the moment.
I think briefly cover it. It's probably not worth thinking any further than the Friday at the moment. I don't think if you want to cover the 4 nights from next midweek, because obviously there's no football till next Tuesday. Tuesday's Bruno next.
Correct. Wednesday?
Be KDB for me. It'd be Kane for a lot of others, but I think KDB after the FA Cup third round. It's interesting. Guardiola's said that he doesn't have many players. Cheeky bastard. Huh. But they're in big trouble now because Scott Carson's got COVID. So I mean,
okay.
Who's never played for them. So they're really fucked now.
I'm just imagining now Carl Walker's like all these 24, 25, 27, 28-year-olds at Carl Walker's bunga bunga party, and 40-year-old Scott Carson walks in, dad in the corner, proper trying to party with the young kids, and he's given himself COVID. Stick with the old people, Paul.
KDB won't be turning up at any of them parties. I'm fairly certain of that. So he should be all right. So KDB would be for me on that Wednesday night.
And then obviously the Thursday.
Arsenal's the Thursday.
Gabriel for you as it stands at the moment.
I think that's the most likely. The most likely for me. But genuinely, I think Leno, Holding, Gabriel, Saka, Lacazette, if it works for you, all fine. Aubameyang, I won't be going Aubameyang. No. If you're already on, fine, you're on, and it could. A patron of ours, Dan McKenna, was like, I need to have words with him. Shit. The returns he's got against Brighton and West Brom. I said, yeah, but Dan, if he was going to blank in 2 or 4, you want it to be those 2. If he goes off against Palace and Newcastle, you're in. And because he's blanked, no one else is going to go there, I don't think. It's too expensive, but it'd be a mass differential.
Yep.
You could go there. The fact they play Southampton on the Saturday in match week 20 is also interesting, because there is definitely the possibility to hold for that game. I think Southampton's high line, I know you're going to go, tough fixture, but high line, when they played that fixture in the restart, he played well with Aubameyang and he had some success up against Kyle Walker-Peters. But I don't see many people going down that route. It would be a massively expensive gamble. You've got to remove a Bruno or a KDB or something, Harry Kane, something similar to make it happen.
Let's look at some of these questions then, shall we? We've had quite a few, so let's see. Well, I think we'll be able to get through quite a few. A lot of them are kind of rank related. Owen Kinnear, would you be disappointed if you finished outside the top 100 given your current rank and transfers left? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah. I would be. I absolutely can. It can go wrong. I mean, the thing is with this game, it's so important to hit the right captaincies. If suddenly you start getting that wrong, like, for example, Salah's obviously had 3 blanks in a row, but then we've all had those 3 blanks together, I should imagine, for nearly all of us. But once that starts happening, if you keep sticking with it and he keeps fucking up, and then Kane was playing the same day and he got 20 points, that's what's going to start hurting you the most. And I'm hurt this week a little bit by the fact that from the players that I didn't captain, so my other 7, they averaged 3 points between them. Ouch. Which normally mine have been getting up to sort of my differentials, if you will, averaging kind of 5 per game, 6 points per game. So this week was bad. So you need the combination of that. You need your differentials to tick over as a collective well, and you need to keep hitting your captains. And if I keep hitting captains, which recently has been bad, but December was great, then I'll finish in the top 100.
Mm-hmm. Ian Parrin, Planet Sky. Again, Ian, shout out to give him a good follow. With the questions here, he's got 2 questions. So the season is now 45% complete. I mean, I suppose we don't know in terms of match days, or because we don't know how the fixture is going to get spread, but maybe in terms of match weeks, yes, 45% complete. Top in Sky is at 1,705 points, James. And the person who's 100th is 1,565, which is probably just a little bit more than you, a couple of points more than you. What do you estimate as the final total for the winner and top 100?
Very dependent on what happens with football once we get sort of April, May. In terms of, are we still regularly going to be kind of going Friday to Monday and spreading things out? There's obviously going to be a lot of single game days with games like Burnley, Fulham, Villa, Newcastle they can drop into random places anywhere, right? Probably after Overhaul, unless, like I said, the FA Cup 4th round date opens up. So it's dependent a lot on that. How many captaincy days left? If it continues through as it has been, probably about 3,400, I guess.
So you're literally doubling up. You think less in the second half? Because what Ian's second question is, with the extra potential captaincy days from postponed games, etc., will there be bigger strides in the second half? So
could be.
1,700 points has come, say 1,500 points top 100 from the first 45%. You'd say, yeah, maybe if the person who's top spanked a lot of transfers, 3,400. Actually, I'm with you. I think that's a good estimation.
I still think it's an average over 38 match weeks. If you want, that's still massive. What is that, about a 95 point per week average or something?
Yeah,
it's probably roughly where I'm not expecting it to be, that it's going to be kind of 100 points per week. So like 3,800. I don't think it'd be quite that high. 3,400, I think, roughly. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's needed to be 3,600, something like that. Depends what the captains do as well, right? If you have that period like in August where it was like Salah hat-trick, Calvert-Lewin hat-trick, KDB going off at Wolves, Bruno doing his bits, all them things happen together, then the averages are going to be higher, aren't they? It feels recently to me like that's calmed a little bit in terms of these mass hauls from big players.
Yeah, perhaps. Maybe that's also a symptom of the frequency of the games, meaning people are not going crazy.
It probably is.
You might have seen maybe some passing tiers increase as teams at the back just hold the ball, but maybe the intensity of tackles and shots is less. But we're out of that period now, so maybe it'll get back to a bit of normality. Rob Pick asks the impossible question: what rank / number of transfers do you think someone needs to be at this point to still have a realistic chance of winning the whole thing?
It is an impossible question.
200 points, though?
What, within first?
Yeah.
To win it?
Yeah.
No, you can be more off than that.
Right now?
Yeah, comfortably. Yeah, so, still win it. Honestly, I think definitely anybody in the top 2,000 can still win it, definitely. And I depend on what transfer count is, possibly higher. If you're sitting there at 4,000 with 30 transfers left, you've still got a real shot, 100%.
Okay.
Because the difference is not that big. We've just said, right, from basically 100th to 18th 100, basically, is 100 points, give or take. You just got to hit the right captains and suddenly, bang, you're off. Yep. I went from 8,000. I realised this is jumping a lot of people who started becoming dead. But I went from 8,000 to basically 200 in the equivalent of 5 match weeks.
Yeah,
hitting the right people and having the right differentials like Matip, etc. So it can be done. It can definitely be done.
Darren, auto reclose. I want to take a punt on a Chelsea attacker for the Fulham game, and then I'm going to captain them for the Leicester game. Who do you reckon could score the most points from those two games combined? Who would you pick, James? Especially going to try and pick someone that's going to play both games.
To be honest, if Ademola Lookman was playing that night, I'd probably say him. That's how keen I'd be on a Chelsea attacking player. I wouldn't.
Who'd sit?
Fuck it, mate. I wouldn't. But genuinely, I wouldn't.
All right, sorry, Darren. No answer.
Genuinely wouldn't.
No answer.
I'd go with one of the defensive guys, or Mason Mount might work for you from a position in midfield. At the moment, Timo Werner, no. I think to go Timo Werner, you would have to see that he played as number 9 against Fulham, and then it might be tempting, and then that's probably the answer. But it's not. None of them's great. No. Zuma. No, anybody who's got Zuma, no one's thinking of adding that for Chelsea Fulham.
Sean Retty, shout out to Sean. It's not really a question, but the interesting thing that Sean's taken a screen grab of is that his rank and his score are identical before the Monday Night Football. 1,462 points, 1,462 overall. Yeah, spooky stuff happening. David Rowe, does Aubameyang still decide who wins the entire game? I think your call a couple of weeks ago is still valid.
He still could. That's my point. Dan McKenna, who I'd mentioned earlier, he dropped about 100 places this week. He's still about 150th, right? Yeah. I said to Dan, I judge it at the end. If Aubameyang was to get 4 or 5 goals for Dan, he's going to fly. He's going to make up that 100 places he's lost and more. He's going to fly. So it could be that, yes, it's the differential that's needed. But I think if you ask me right now, I think the winner probably won't buy him. To define it like that, I wasn't wrong yet.
Tim Wilton, top three essential players if you had a magic wand, regardless of number of transfers and money no obstacle right now. I mean, Bruno and KDB leap off the page straight away as on the days that they play, and obviously when they're not playing each other or on the same day, they just stand out as clear captaincy coverage.
And for me, still Salah.
Again and again. Yeah.
Still Salah. That's a lot of that's to do with ownership. I mean, you couldn't not put Bruno in that fray. I think KDB, because of the gains now, has to be there. I think everybody realised again Sunday, just a little reminder, KDB can go off against anybody at any time. He's not going to play in that position again. He might do when they play Liverpool in match week 23, but otherwise he'll go back to a 10 and have another one in front of him. And Salah, look, Salah's still got Brighton at home and Burnley at home to play before the overhaul. It's close your eyes, right? If he's in the team for those and he's starting, he's everyone's captain again, isn't he? Yep. Whereas Kane's not so obvious, actually. So if you look at, obviously, Villa is who Kane's got. Okay, City play the same day. I'll happily go KDB. Again, they play Sheffield United. Great. But Man United are the only team to score more than 2 at Bramall Lane since the Blades got promoted. And they've done that twice, by the way, United. City play Palace the same night, and you've still got Liverpool against United. Tottenham play Liverpool. Great. Tottenham play Brighton on the Sunday. We're not sure yet how that's going to look. It's been booked in for the Sunday. Liverpool play West Ham. So I think Salah can cover that off. And Tottenham play Chelsea and then West Brom. And West Brom will depend. We obviously don't know the fixtures for that yet, how it lands. But admittedly, with City playing Liverpool in match week 23, there's a high chance that you probably will want Harry Kane in match week 23. And that's also a consciousness on my decision at the moment, going back to need versus want, is there are still things that I can't see in match weeks 21, 22 and 23 that are potentially going to define what I want to do. And we're definitely not going to get any indication of that till the FA Cup third round is completed this weekend. And once the draw's made for the fourth round and they pick the TV games, we might find that midweek of match week 20, the Tuesday and Wednesday, some of them fixtures get switched around. These are possible. So actually, we don't know the guaranteed picture beyond match week 19 at the moment. Where I've been saying, Aubameyang's at Southampton on that Tuesday. Well, should Arsenal meet Liverpool in the fourth round of the FA Cup, for example, there's a fair shot that Southampton and Arsenal will get moved to a Wednesday. So that's not 100% locked in at the moment.
Let's go for a few other questions. I'm going to skip all of the questions that involve rank and transfers. How many transfers, how much rank, because it's so individual and based on circumstance. You've got a flavour for our opinion based on the show in terms of
100%. You don't want to be on less than 15 come the overhaul.
After the overhaul,
I think anything above that might well be manageable. When you overhaul, you will have a strong idea of what 26 could look like and where Manchester City and Everton, for example, could be rearranged. And you'll also have an idea of, match week 29, those games might happen there, those games might not. So I think if you consider that in 23, you can maneuver after 23, you can maneuver what 26 will hopefully look like. Hopefully you carry through those 3 match weeks before you have to make any decisions. And hopefully as well, once the weather gets better in terms of maybe COVID vaccinations and stuff like that, hopefully, and injuries, hopefully it'll calm down a little bit. That will help as well.
I did see actually your tweet hoping that you could get to the League Cup final.
Well, yeah, obviously, sweetheart.
Yeah, but you're such one of those casual fans. You ain't been to a game all season. Suddenly you reckon you can rock up at the cup final and just be like, yeah, all right. Yeah.
I'm hoping I'll be back at Tottenham before then, but I'm not holding my breath.
Benny Blanco says Arsenal coverage for their single game day. Who to take out, Neto, Grealish or Zuma?
Again, can't be Zuma. And I think someone responded to Benny and said that, as I said to you as well. Don't think you want to move Grealish. For me, Neto, I mean, I would look at him. I haven't made a decision about that Saturday yet, Saturday the 16th. But I'm not going to have Vardy now unless something opened up and I decided to buy him, which playing Southampton and Chelsea and then Everton, I'm not desperate to do. But I'm conscious he's got Leeds, Fulham afterwards. So it might be I just captain Grealish against Everton.
Yeah.
For me, it depends obviously what you've got. Can make a case Neto against West Brom on that Saturday as well, arguably. So it depends who you're buying, who you're selling. Be conscious of that Saturday and what you're captaining
there. Chris Hermitage, best point to get rid of Patricia. I'm fed up with him, but should I just wait it out till the overhaul? Feels like a wait now for the overhaul, really.
Yeah, I think after they play West Brom on the Saturday, if they haven't kept clean sheets against Everton or West Brom, it might be that something opens up to you and gives you a bit of coverage. Look, Patricio, if you were going Patricio to Leno, I could live with that. If that's going to give you the Arsenal captaincy coverage, for example. But I think otherwise, it's probably stick it out. It's not, again, it's a need versus a want, isn't it? You want to get rid of him. Do you need to? Could Wolves keep clean sheets against the like of Chelsea, Palace, Arsenal, Leicester? Yeah, of course they can.
And Alex Turner's asking similar stuff around Wolves assets. Would you hold your Wolves asset now we don't need captaincy coverage? He has Podence, for example, and thinks moving on to Saka for the Arsenal single game will be worth it.
Well, the problem, Podence is out for a couple of weeks now. So that's one we'd probably say,
I feel like that was, maybe that question was asked before.
Yeah, that's only been updated by Wolves literally in about the last hour and a half before we started recording. So I think Podence, that's an easy move on to, Saka on the Thursday is absolutely reasonable. Neto, its ownership's up to about 30% in the top 1,000 now. And more people went from him than what I expected. And you wonder, can I just carry him?
Yeah.
And I feel like I possibly can. He's not the worst player to have. He's ticking over nicely. Actually, that Romeo to Neto move has worked out really nicely. And as I said to you at the time, that I thought he would play all the games over Christmas, and he has. Everton at home, West Brom at home the next 2. All right, I'm now not going to captain him against Everton. I might ironically, as I said, captain him against West Brom. He's a possibility. I'd be gutted if I sold him and then suddenly, for example, Wolves and Leicester landed on the Monday on the final day of the overhaul, and I've got no Leicester coverage either.
Yeah.
So a little bit of caution.
And I'm going to ask 3 questions together, James, and that's going to summarize the kind of last talking point of the episode. So FPL Quinner, stuck in purgatory between 2K and 3K with 25 transfers in hand. At what point do I have to start punting on differentials to try and close the gap to the top? We also have here FPL Dempsey. Assuming most of the contending pack will have between 20 and 25 transfers right now, and I think that's a fair assumption. remaining at Overhaul. I actually think at Overhaul it'll probably be a bit less. What overhauled strategy do you think will differentiate and possibly gain an advantage on others? So there are a few questions here that have come in around now. How do we break away from what everybody else is doing to try and push back up the leaderboard? Because we always talked at the start of the season, it was like, get to Christmas, get to Christmas, get to Christmas. Ignore your rank and all that kind of stuff, because a lot of the casuals who are just burning their transfers to be top for the game week or top for the day or whatever, they're all going to burn out. That's happened now. And now we're seeing that it's a little bit harder to make the rank rises. And differentiating is going to be what's going to help people get really right up there. So, yeah, any thoughts around what people can do to differentiate both between now and Overhaul, and then an Overhaul strategy that might help people gain an advantage on others?
I think now, if you want to act hard now, it's slam into Manchester City. If someone said to me, James, when I see that team sheet for the Brighton game, I'm going to have 5 Manchester City players, I wouldn't have an issue with that. I would say, wow, that's going to be big. If you wanted to go something like Ederson, Cancelo, Diaz, Stones, KDB. I mean, look, you know that if they concede 1 goal, crushing. But if it's a clean sheet, wow. I mean, what a jump that would be. Particularly if you captain KDB and he goes off as well. Imagine adding the 4 clean sheets and passing tiers on top of that as well. You're going to be adding 35 to 40 points.
I understand what you're saying there. One of the things that we don't, a phrase that we don't necessarily use is dead ending, or we haven't been, but we're now at the point where you could start maybe dead ending your team to the Overhaul. So steaming into one particular team, if they've got a good run, knowing that you're not going to be stuck with that forever, might be an interesting strategy.
That's one way of doing it in the immediate. The other is differential captains. So I've spoken obviously about Mikel Antonio for the West Brom game. Thomas Souček is exactly the same price as Pedro Neto. Could be a really interesting one on the day, for example. So differential captains is another way of potentially doing it. I wouldn't go differential to say captain Neto against Everton rather than Bruno Fernandes against Burnley. It's probably not going to be worth it. It's probably going to pain you. But at some point, that sort of thing, yeah, of course. If at some point you can't just go with Bruno every single game to the end of the season and expect to be jumping people. Although his ownership's dropped to about 97% in the top 1,000, I noticed. Some people, well, some
There's
people
obviously couple more that have sold him.
Some people obviously went to Vardy, and I suspect maybe they didn't realise that the Burnley game had been rearranged quite possibly.
Or they got transfers to burn and were happy to.
After Overhaul, you have to remember this as well in terms of differentiating. When we all overhaul, we're all going to, unlike probably the first time round, this time we're all going to have quite similar teams. There's no point someone saying to me, James, what would you do with the overhaul? I'm just going to tell you what my team is. We've all got the same money. We've all got the same choices. So therefore, for the majority of us, we're kind of already there now where for many of us, we've got probably at least 6 players the same or so. The overhaul period is probably more likely to be sort of 8, 9 the same. And it's only then once you start get break-ins of injuries, COVIDs, rearrangements, that's when that template will break. So you're going to have to suffer if you're behind, probably from match week 24 till 26 or so. Okay, I'm going to be stationary. So the gains are either going to be now, soon, or in the latter stages around sort of blank game week 29 and afterwards, and making sure you take advantage of Kane's single game day. That sort of thing's going to come up. Definitely more City ones, particularly if they beat Manchester United tonight, for example. But then they're going to be highly owned. No one's going to be thinking any different. If Kane has a single game day against Fulham, everyone in advance is going to go, okay, yeah, shit, I need some of that. So you have to take, in my opinion, that sort of gamble now and again, like I did with Matip, which no one liked. Now I've kind of done with Stones and Diaz, which I think a few of them might go down that route when City play Brighton, particularly if like Stones, Diaz, Cancelo are all in the team. I can see quite a few people going double Man City. But it probably needs that sort of thing, and it needs it to work to make the jumps. Captaincy is difficult at the moment. I mean, that one that we got asked about, Chelsea forward. If you go Werner and he goes big in the 2 games, there's your answer, right? I just can't
Yeah,
see
of
it at the
course.
moment.
No, not with the way Chelsea are playing at the moment.
Aubameyang for Dan McKenna. If he goes off, right, he's going to fly.
He's still there. Loitering is Aubameyang. There we go. That's a rundown of the questions that we've had on Twitter, as well as obviously everything that we've covered off in the pod as well. We'll be back at you next week, Wednesday, again with another Sky pod. We'll obviously have had the Tuesday night game, but we'll be recording before Wednesday, and you never know what information will emerge in the next week or so. Maybe more people with COVID. There was 40 cases yesterday, James.
It's not as bad as it looks.
Does that include staff and stuff like that?
Yeah,
right?
it's 2 rounds of testing rather than 1. So when people go, the previous highest was 18, that was 1 round of testing. The 40 is over 2. So obviously 18 twice would have been 36. Don't get me wrong, it's not good, but it's not as bad as it sounds. Plus, we know that shit's happened that's broken this bubble and made the problem, right? So I think it will get into better shape. As I said last week, you need cat-like reflexes at the moment to just make decisions once you've got information, and that's why at the moment I genuinely can't say which Arsenal player I'm going to buy. Next Wednesday when we do this pod, I probably know what I'm going to do. Even then, I'm thinking Gabriel at the moment, but if he's not in the team, I'm making a different decision, aren't I?
Of course, exactly.
So options, keeping options open is not a bad idea at the moment, and we've all got 6 days to have a think. And there's probably shit with the Cup semi-final tonight, FA Cup games at the weekend that's going to change some opinions. Good time to relax because there ain't many in this season.
There we go. Guys, thank you for tuning in to the show. As always, if you need more content from us, then head over to patreon.com/planetfpl. The Patreons have a Slack channel that's dedicated to Sky Fantasy Football where people share ideas and transfer plans and what have you. And we also do Sky Fantasy Football Extra Time as an additional pod for them every kind of 3 or 4 weeks as a general. So it might be worth it if you're particularly into your Sky Fantasy Football. Anything else to add, James?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Have a good weekend.
Indeed. Stay safe is the most important thing. Wash your hands and ciao for now.
Spurs are on their way to Wembley. Cue music, please, man child.